me let my group of young ladies get in here first. As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to add a closed session for economic development under, based on North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A4. So we'll go with a economic development, a legal, and a personnel update during that closed session in that order, if that works for you all. We'd also like to continue item 6E to the September 6th meeting. And we do have one employee introduction that will have to be pushed off with Tim Robbins.
All right, I have that noted on our agenda. Up next is your approval of the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is your consent agenda.
I move we approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next under introductions and special presentations will be a follow-up presentation by the GeForce girls robotic team.
Mayor and Council, I'm Joy Garrettson, Library Director. I'm just going to introduce these girls really quickly. So libraries are often a place where people come to experience technology that they haven't had an opportunity to see before, to try out things that they may not have the funding to do, they may not know that they may not know about. So a couple years ago, in a previous iteration of this team, Sloan and Mom approached me about doing some work with their robotics team in the library, and we're excited to partner with them. They did sort of a look at some improvements they could do with robotics in the library, and then they you were also doing the robot bill too at that time, right? And so since then, they have they formed another robotics team that worked with us last year and did 2 great programs for the library. They came in and talked to you all in December, and council expressed a desire to see their robot and to do some more stuff. This past March, we were able to put some funding for programming with GeForce Robotics into our budget, which means that we're going to have continued programming from these girls all year long. We already had one program with them at the end of July that came with Greg Danby, who was on BattleBots. He's actually out in the lobby right now. And they had about 40-50 people come see a demonstration and get to make doodlebots in the library. So it was really exciting for us. And if you're still wondering why you might do libraries with reading and STEM and robotics, I like to think of it as you are teaching children a language. And when they encounter the language of robotics, of your electronics, of the different pieces that you put together to do this work, then the next time they encounter that language, they're going to be able to read it. So you're basically starting STEM literacy at the library, which to me is a win-win. And I'm so excited to have some representatives from GeForce Girls Robotics, and I'll let you guys go.
Hi, my name is Sloan. I'm a freshman at Clayton High School, and I am also a founder of GeForce Robotics. We've seen this a few times before when we are part of an all-girl middle school team that tech their practices, but we are here today to give you an update on our new all-girl high school team and how we're impacting the Clayton. Please give us a second.
Hello, my name is Clayton Clovers, and I'm a 10th grader at Johnston County Early College Academy STEM program, and I was also a member of the Techno Tigresses. Because of my time on that middle school team, I knew I wanted to attend Early College Academy STEM program and eventually pursue a future career in engineering. Last year, a few of us realized that more high school girls in the area were interested in joining the robotics team, but there weren't many available options. So we decided to start our own all-girl team here in Clayton. GeForce Robotics is the third all-girl team in the state of North Carolina, and we're also the only one east of I-95. Out of 4,000 teams across the globe, less than 2% of them are all female, so this shows a need. Even though we just started in April, we filled our team roster in 2 months. Currently, we're the largest all-girl team in the state with 12 members. It's exciting to see so many girls interested in STEM and robotics. What makes it even better is that we come from a broad background of educational communities to include public, charter, and homeschool. We have varied interests from sports to drama to band, but we all see STEM as a part of our future, which is great news for the future as Clayton's workforce continues to expand in the manufacturing and biotech industries. GeForce Robotics allows us to combine our interest in STEM with real-world business principles to design, build, code, market, and compete with the 125-pound robot in district and hopefully state and world competitions. As you saw in the lobby, we've already learned the skills to build and code our chassis robot, and we're all becoming quite handy using power tools. We will enhance this robot over the next 2 months as we prepare for an off-season competition on October 16th in Chapel Hill. We invite you to come and watch us. We're a unique team in the Clayton area, and we plan to make a strong impact. Here's Krista to tell you more about what we're doing in Clayton to make it a better place to live and work.
Hi, I'm Krista Vera, and I'm a senior at Clayton High School. In addition to being on this team, I'm also the robotics lead for the Clayton High School Computer Science Club. While robotics competitions are incredibly important to us, it is not our only purpose. In First Robotics, we have a motto that says, more than robots. We believe in sharing our knowledge and passion for STEM with others, and we believe in giving back to our communities. We've been hard at work at doing just that. We were honored to work alongside community leaders to help with the Flag Patrol program in Clayton, putting up 1,500 American flags in the field near Johnston County. We hosted our first Women in STEM luncheon at the Yellow House in Virginia. We invited other high school girls to talk with female engineers, fighter pilots, forensic experts, and computer scientists, and our event was over capacity. In late June, Sloan and Caitlin traveled to Washington, D.C. to participate in the National STEM Advocacy Conference and visit North Carolina legislators on Capitol Hill to talk about the importance of STEM education and programs and to encourage them to increase funding for STEM programs to benefit underserved and underrepresented communities. Inspiring the Girls is one of our main missions, and we have partnered with the Clayton Library and Oak Ridge Computer Science Girls out of Tennessee to offer free Girls Teach Tech classes several times a year. The courses are open to girls in 5th to 8th grade and teach everything from simple coding to 3D printing to the fundamentals of artificial intelligence. We also have a STEM literacy project that we started to donate STEM books to our local public libraries and elementary. Recently, we collaborated with Women's Club of Clayton, VNext, which stands for the Society of Women Engineers, and female engineers for Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and Orion Spacecraft Project to sign books that we donated to the Clayton and Henley libraries during our robotics themed summer reads program. Caterpillar, Collins Aerospace, and Red Hat have also jumped in to help us with this project. In September, we will donate 2 more books for Academy and another thing elementary school. We hope to make this a national program by engaging more businesses, communities, and schools. Finally, in addition to serving our community as a team, we all participate in the President's Volunteer Service Award Program. In just a few short months, our team has volunteered close to 600 hours in our community. Now here's some to close us out.
As you've heard, we've been incredibly busy since we were formed in April. We have a goal of being a highly competitive, world-class team before we all graduate in a few years. We know this takes determination, dedication, focus, and skills, but it also takes a community that supports us. STEM funding for the library allows us to continue our outreach efforts. In September, we'll host our first Girls Teach Tech class of the school year, and we'll also be participating in the Jazz and Arts Festival at Atmosphere and the Clayton Center. We are also on the planning committee for the Wings Over Wing Air Show STEM Day, in which we'll help coordinate STEM events for almost over 200,000 attendees. These are just some of the things we can do when we collaborate to bring STEM to our community. Thank you for having us this evening and supporting our team throughout the years. Do you have any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Well, the only thing I want to say is I love the fact that you guys are helping underserved communities, and I can see all the hard work you put in. That's amazing. So keep up the good work. You guys are definitely the future.
I'll echo that, and thank you for being here tonight. This is great. Spreading awareness and all the work you're doing in the community is awesome, and thank you for letting me drive your robot.
Mr. Thompson.
Your presentation, this presentation is amazing. The demonstration is just so highly technical beyond what I can imagine somebody's able to do, with your brain. And I think what you're doing to empower young ladies is admirable. And your outreach into the community with regard to STEM is something that is a true specialty and something that you're obviously very interested in, you're passionate about, and with that passion, you're going to take that passion to the community. And another thing that impresses me is, you guys have been to Washington, D.C. You're putting us, Clayton, North Carolina, on a national stage. And this is beyond something happening at our library or something happening here in our town. You're ambassadors of us. Anybody that represents the town of Clayton and this community and takes the best of our community out of here to share with the rest of the world, that means a lot to me as an elected official. And I like to be able to look at that and say, hey, that's our people, we're proud of them. And so I am proud of you, thank you.
I had a great time playing with the robot. It's amazing, especially when I figured out forward was forward and backward was backward. We all have our gifts and talents, and that just doesn't happen to be one of the mayors. Your possibilities to be in contribution to the world, not just like our community or our state or the southern part of the United States, but like the whole world, is just unbelievable. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing, and I can't thank your leaders who are supporting you and helping this come to fruition and taking it to the next level. We applaud them, and thank you so much for being here this evening. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Go GeForce.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I don't think that microphone's working.
He told me it was at max.
Yeah, because I've got somebody out looking at public, so there's a lot working.
Okay. So I'm thinking we do have a little bit of issue with the microphone on the feed. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Joy.
Up next on the, yes, thank you, Joy. That was fantastic. Up next on the agenda is the Clayton Clovers baseball.
Follow that, she says.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members, for the opportunity to stand before you all this evening. I'm Scott Hunter, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm going to ask Louis Gillis and Kevin Sharp to join me as well. They're the owners of your Clayton Clovers. And this evening, we're going to start with a brief video presentation to feature some of the players and show some of the action. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to Caleb and Louis just to say a few words to y'all, and then I'll wrap with just a couple high-level statistics on the impact that this has had, at least on the use of the park. I'm not quite ready to extrapolate that out in any kind of dollars or anything, but I can tell you about use of the park during the period of time that we hosted the Clovers compared to the previous year. With that.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Because you guys know this would be possible. We can't wait to get back there and go next year. Anybody who's on there this summer? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, awesome. We appreciate you guys so much for having us. Thank you to the mayor and the council members so much for helping us get this off the ground. It was a tremendous experience for us in year one. We'd be remiss not to mention, the help from Rich and Scott as well. The entire staff on Parks and Rec was an absolute dream to work with. Lieutenant Temple and the Clayton Police Department were just a breath of fresh air. They helped us out so much as well in year one. Without, that group of people there, we'd be lost. But most importantly, Caleb and I, it was awesome to provide this for the people of Town Clayton. How well it was received was just tremendous to us. We had a tremendous, showing on the field. We won the Clayton Carolina Collegiate League Championship in year one. We like to call it the Clayton Collegiate League, but we had a great showing talent-wise. But off the field, is what we're proud of. We bundled with the Chamber of Commerce and some amazing businesses here in Clayton. We built some relationships with the host family program to host our kids from out of state. Half of our team consisted of local kids. Numerous kids played from within the Johnson County community and had a chance to come back home and play here, which was amazing for us. And next year we're primed to take another really big step and join what is the largest collegiate summer league in this area. So as excited as we are for year two, we're even more excited for year 3 and 4 and years to come. Just really appreciate everybody here for helping us so much. We're very glad we found Clayton compared to some of the other places we looked. Your involvement has just been unmatched. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions or comments?
Just want to say thank you guys for being here and representing Clayton in a big way. And I appreciate you, especially how you guys are connecting with the community, connecting with the businesses and everything else. So thank you so much.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations on winning the championship. I went to a couple games. I love the whole atmosphere and everything. I do think that we have a good foundation. Now it's time to build. I think there's a huge opportunity out there to do a whole lot more, more awareness, and just to get the word out there, to have a sports team here in the town of, right here locally in the town of Clayton, how Clayton is growing so fast. I think it has, again, an opportunity for this team and this event to grow even just as much as fast as Clayton is.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, just real quick, I'm going to sit y'all with just a few statistics. So where do these numbers come from? Because these statistics are a little dangerous, right? We're playing around with some software that happens to have instruments that is utilizing cell phone data. That's a little bit creepy, but it's telling us numbers of folks, and, as well as where they're going, and a little bit of demographic information about them as well. But during the period of time that was this year's Clover season, in this year, we had 31,000 visitors in East Clayton Park. All right, that is a 50% increase from the number of visitors we had in year 20. Now that's cool. That's a 50% increase. But keep in mind, we also had 2 athletic fields offline. The 2 fields that were converted into artificial turf. So that number is really much higher than 50% increase in participation in that park. Because during this same period of time that we played baseball, we would have been crammed in soccer, rugby, lacrosse, and anything else they invent that you can play on a rectangular field during the same period of time. But those 2 fields were offline for the entirety of the Clover season. The other thing we're able to look at is how long a visitor is staying. 10,000 visitors during that period of time stayed over 150 minutes. That means a whole lot of folks are staying for the entirety of the baseball game. And then finally, we looked at loyalty. Right? Loyalty is how many people are coming more than 3 times to a facility. And we increased our loyalty number in that park, which obviously includes a really incredible playground as well, right? But we increased our loyalty number from 13.1 thousand to 22.6 thousand folks that visited that park more than 3 times, really in a 60-day period. So that's kind of hitting it at a high level. Patrick can really unpack these numbers and tell us some things that I really wanted to let y'all know. There's a lot of folks coming out to lay eyes on an amazing product. Caleb and Lewis put together an amazing team, everything from announcers to the volunteers who are taking tickets to the players themselves. We even pulled part-time staff out of their roster of players that are not local to the area, looking for ways to put food in their house. This is a labor of love for them. They come to play baseball in our community. So I appreciate y'all's support of us and ultimately them this first year. Can't wait for next year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
I just want to say, Scott, thank you as a department head for always, you're such an advocate for athletics and for bringing the best to Clayton. And you've raised that awareness for us as an elected body. And I appreciate that a whole lot because, if you hadn't brought this to us and said, hey, we got the Clayton Clovers, we want to have, do ball in Clayton, we wouldn't know what was going on with it. And you represent us well, and you're doing a great job bringing that awareness to this council, and I appreciate it.
Councilman, I appreciate that very much. As we talked to y'all as a body, when we presented this opportunity, we really said this could be the tip of the iceberg. I still believe there's great opportunity with the Clovers themselves, but there's also opportunities in sports tourism. If that's up, then I need to want to start doing. All right, y'all are stuck with me one more time. Well, actually twice, but you're going to get me at the end. Now I'd like to ask Felice Chadwick and Marshall Horne to join me up here. Good, please. All right, I know y'all are all well aware of the community garden that exists behind the Clayton Center on William Church Road. The thousands of pounds of vegetables that come out here and on local charities over here. And again, not exaggerating, but thousands of volunteer hours that go into making that happen. But every year, the garden will come and present a check and thank us for our efforts. The proceeds from a plant sale, which is really the kind of little financial engine that helps that garden churn. And another home run for us, kind of similar to baseball reference. Biggest year garden sale ever. And I'm growing tomato plants that are taller than me in my house. And putting tomatoes to work and cramming them on people's desks because I have too many. And so it really is a ginormous feather in our cap to have that in our backyard. But none of it would be possible without Felice specifically and the volunteers that she hands, as well as the leadership that's coming from the cooperative extension and all the support. I'm going to turn it over to them, and then we're going to invite you down there for a presentation of a check.
My name is Marshall Horne, horticulture extension agent, work with consumers and commercial aspect of horticulture in Johnson County. On the consumer side, we're with homeowners and also training and work with master grower volunteers. So I can only be in one spot at one time, and we have about 85 master grower volunteers and throughout the community to help train people. So we have numerous programs that we also work with education programs. Each year we try to have an annual plant sale. In the past we've had an extension sale, this year we kind of need to go with the results from that, and we need to get it more exposure so that luckily we have an opportunity to have a plant sale with the community. It gives us a lot of exposure and gross amount sold in plants and so forth. It's a long explanation of how we here. That's the way that we can check by some of our proceeds to allow us to use that facility for Sarah use.
I know y'all remember Roy Lewis. He used to come and represent the community garden. He passed away a couple years ago. I had been volunteering there since 2015, and I sort of inherited his mantle. Nobody could take Roy's place. But we certainly do appreciate all the support that the community center provides. It gives us a space to do the gardening and learn and teach other people. I also teach the A and Z gardening classes for the Clayton Community Center. And this year, we've really expanded. We've moved to Saturday mornings. We've got a lot of interest. We've had, I think in the first 12 weeks, we had 28 registered for that class. Second 10 weeks we were teaching, we've had 24 registered. So those numbers are really, really up. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the center has those facilities and provides that wonderful garden for us to teach people hands-on work with the plants. I didn't come with a beautiful presentation or I don't have athletic abilities, but I can grow some plants. And so, did anybody come to the plant sale or get your plants from the plant sale?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! I mean, you could even drive in there. People came from everywhere. So yeah, it was the most successful plant sale we've ever had. And y'all make me look good. I actually won an award this year for being the Johnson County Master Gardener of the Year that had to do with such a successful plant sale. Part of the support for the plant sale is not just providing the facility for us to have it, but I mean, y'all run the greenhouses and so you provide the water and the electricity. So it's not just the facilities. You support us greatly in that garden. We really, really appreciate it. And the other thing is, I didn't bring pictures, but I do encourage you to come out there and look at it. It is a beautiful space. It's not just a garden, it's an oasis, really. So come by sometime and take a look at it. I think you'll really find it a beautiful place.
Mayor, can you join us?
I've never turned down a check.
Well, that's the other thing. I didn't take pictures. I didn't bring you a little bit of money back. So.
We thank you so much. If we will turn around, let's go to this picture. Let's have a nice round of applause. All right, up next on the agenda is new Town of Clayton employees. Give the floor to Ann Gain.
Good evening, council, mayor. I'm here to introduce our new front desk afternoon employee, Wanda Johnson. Wanda comes to us with years of transportation, HR, and customer service experience. And on day one, she was ready to start. She didn't like the fact that she didn't know everything day one. She's done an incredible job of understanding what we're looking for in terms of customer experience when we come in the door, and making sure that everybody gets to the right place when coming to the building. So I would like to introduce Rhonda, and I hope you all will stop and speak to the incoming.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Very happy to.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Ann. All right, up next, we're going to begin with our public hearing. Our first public hearing is for Annexation Petition 2022-79 ANX for O'Neill Overlook, located on O'Neill Road and Oakdale Avenue. That probably should read O'Neill Street, but for the record.
Bruce Venable, Planner 1 trainee, here presenting here tonight for the O'Neill Overlook Annexation. To go over some basics with you, it's approximately 15.5 acres. It's 2 parcels that make up this annexation. The petition today is contiguous, meaning that it connects to other parts of the town on already owned properties. It's currently under ETJ that is not annexed to the town yet. It is here in their O'Neill Overlook LLC. location is approximately, O'Neill Street, Pinocchio Avenue, with kind of up in between, so I apologize for not having more specific location for you there. We will ask for publish town council meetings, dates for there for you. I'll just jump on that so you can kind of see where it is in proximity. I'm not available for any questions, any opportunities to give any questions.
All right. This has been noted as a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this matter, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Beth Mouts. I'm a full-time development representing the owner of the property in project today. You guys are having a good evening. We are doing an access property just to fulfill our conditions of approval from
All right. Any questions or comments from council? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. No one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and I'll turn it over to council for their deliberation.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Archer.
I would like to move to approve Annexation Ordinance 2022-08-04.
Second.
That's not the right number.
Oh, there's two different numbers.
Yes. Don't try to trick me.
My apologies. Here I was trying to stick to the red letters this time. I move to approve 2022-79-ANX.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of annexation petition 2022-79 ANX. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next is a public hearing for annexation petition 2022-9 ANX for Ashcroft, Section 2, located on North O'Neill Street and the river, the Neuse River.
Okay. All right, so this one is for approximately 221 acres. It's a total of about 6 different parcels are made up of this. It's also contiguous, meaning that it is catching in proximity to other economic parcels. Currently under ECJ, proximate location is O'Neill Street, Dublin, Bridge Road. I'll show you that here. The parcels that are outlined in red are the ones that are in petition for annexation today. The applicant is here as well.
All right, any questions for staff? All right, no questions for staff. I'll open the public hearing, and anyone who wishes to speak on this, please step forward and state your name for the record.
My name is still Becca Mounts, and I'm still here currently, also representing the owner of this property, still to fulfill our condition of approval for the project. So, if you have any questions.
Questions or comments? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their deliberation.
We have gotten that yet, that's right now.
Ms. Archer.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve 2022-9-ANX.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the annexation petition 2022-9 ANX. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is public hearing for annexation petition 2022-100 ANX for River Muse located at 1603 NC Highway 42 East.
Applicant here seeking to annex 147 approximate acres of non-contiguous land in city limits. It is from a parcel located in Piercer. It's right here off of NZ 42. There and ready.
All right, questions for staff? All right, being no questions for staff, I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this matter, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jason Wenzel. I'm currently in Smithfield. I'm here on behalf of Clovers Plantation, which on the map would be right on the other side of the river, the east side of the river, on this property. Approximately 19 years ago, this property was transferred to Gregory Moore from this Clovers, would be behind, seat behind me. I have a copy of that deed I would like to hand up. Can I do that? Which I think is illustrative of what our objections to this annexation would be. So that deed was done in 2003. It was done from Rebecca Flowers to Gregory Moore. The applicant for the annexation now is essentially with two different LLCs that are owned by Gregory Moore. But highlighted on the front page of that deed is a reservation of up to 300 residential units of density of 7,790 granted to Gregory Moore Flowers as part of the Flowers Plantation HUD conceptual master plan as approved by the Johnson County Commissioners back in 1998. I'll tell you what that means in just a second. The second page shows a further reservation that is continued, this property continues to be subject to the control of the declarant, which is Flowers, for up to 30 years. It's doing the math from 2003 to now, it's been 19 years. So, taking it one step at a time, the HUD, what does that mean? So, think of a HUD, you probably all know what HUD is, a planned unit development. But think of that as a kind of a small self-contained county, right? The way that a HUD is approved in Flowers Plantation, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, is the largest in the triangle. It is approximately 40 different residential subdivisions now and multiple different commercial subdivisions. Just drive outside the town if you want to go to Publix or Harris Teeter, those are examples of the commercial part of it. But the commissioner, the county ordinance, which right now, until you annex this property is still subject to, defines a HUD as a comprehensively planned community with some light business that is expected to be part of the development as part of an improved master plan. So now we're putting the pieces together, right? So this property was part of that originally approved HUD. Under the Johnson County ordinances, there is a public hearing for a HUD. It's a special use, and so there are specific findings of fact that go along with that. So if a landowner wants to voluntarily annex their property, right, they come here and say, we want to be part of your town, we don't want to be part of the current jurisdiction, right? Well, you can't be part of two at that point. And so our objection is essentially that those density units, which are right on the face of that deed, 300 out of 7,790, can't be part of it in the town. They've got to stay with HUD. So I thought maybe, how can I use that as an example to show you what that is? During the pandemic, we all probably, many of us, did a lot of puzzles, right? So think of this tabletop as the land, okay? And both of these tabletops. So you've got the whole HUD here, 7,790 puzzle pieces. That's a bigger puzzle than I like to do because it gets mind-boggling after a while. But you don't have to do the puzzle on top of this table, right? You can do the puzzle over there, you can do the puzzle on the floor. But if you're going to take part of the table out, you've got to take the puzzle pieces with it, right? You can't say, well, I'm going to take 300 pieces of the puzzle and take them with this piece of land, and then you've only got a 7,490 piece puzzle that's left over, right? Nobody wants to do that puzzle. That's our objection to it. You guys can do what you want to do with the property. We're just saying that if you're going to annex it in, we need to have the density back as part of the PUD that's on the other side of the river. And from a practical standpoint, what are we talking about with density? We're talking about the entitlements, the sewer, the water, right? Well, common sense tells you that it doesn't make a lot of sense to do a gravity force upstream. You want to do it, and that river is probably a good dividing line. But if we can keep the PUD, and we tried to work that out with the applicant, we've been discussing it with them for quite a while, but they won't respond to us. So we felt we had no other objection to come here for you and say that's what our objection to it is. So I've also got Lamar Armstrong with me. I do more of the transactional side. He's going to give you his 2 cents on how that fits into the big picture as well. I hope that was short and succinct, but if you've got any questions, I'll certainly try to answer.
Questions or comments? I think we're good.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Lamar Armstrong, and I am also a attorney at Clovers Plantation. My role is different than Jason's. He's the brains. I'm the guy that hopefully solves disputes. Like I tell people, I like to solve disputes without court. If I have to, I go to court. And I'm not here tonight to make threats against anyone. In fact, I'm here to try to say, is there a way to solve this problem? And that's what I offer you tonight. We would ask that you table it. I'll tell you why. In fact, several years, Mr. Winslow has said that we've been talking. We have. I personally had conversations with Mr. Moore's attorney. And Ms. Clovers is very good friends with Mr. Moore. And she's cooperated through the years that he's transferred the land to his LLCs, and always knew there would be a day that it would be developed. And it should be. The density's always been on the table, because that is the issue. Now, density is only useful if you're in the PUD. That's the restriction, how much you can build, and how many units you can have in the PUD. You can slice it up in small units, bigger units. Density has no benefit to Mr. Moore or his LLCs or purchase. They're in the watershed. They're going to be able to build whatever the town of Clayton, whatever the watershed rules say. They can't say, I've got 300 units of density, flowers, and I need to do what I'm going to do. So we have always thought that they would, as this day approached, deal with us. And they haven't. They've quite frankly gone dark. And we're very surprised by that. So I know no one likes surprises, and the letter last week is a surprise, and I apologize for that. But I will tell you that we tried to resolve this, and we felt like it would be resolved, because what we wanted was them to give us what they did not need. And we weren't going to oppose it. It wasn't a question that we were going to build a wall around the PUD and say we're going to fight about 1 inch into our territory. That was not Ms. Flower's intention. It still isn't her intention. She wants Mr. Moore to be able to do what he wants to do with his property. And we really don't know. I wish I could tell you why aren't they doing something that costs them nothing, putting us in a position to have to be in front of you and have to ask you to take this. I don't have an answer to that. I wish I knew. We had to increase the volume last week when we sent the letter. They being whoever was on Mr. Moore's side, hired litigation counsel from the state council. Simply we could send to him and said, you want to talk about it? We haven't had a call. So we're not asking you to fight the battles with these fires. We'll do that. But I think if you table it, it will give time and we'll send a message to Mr. Moore and those that want to buy the land from these LLCs. Send a message to them that this is an issue. I'm not here tonight to get into all the legal issues that could arise with this. That's, you don't want to hear it, that's a legal issue you don't need to get into. But just briefly, it is, if you have 2 towns and they butt up against each other, one can't take another's property. So there's an issue of vested rights, and Ms. Flowers doesn't want to look at it. And it's got some unique issues. But we can avoid it. So what, on behalf of Flowers Plantation, Ms. Flowers, I ask you to do tonight respectfully is to consider just tabling this. Just table it and give us some time, send some message to other sides. They got to talk to us. Maybe they have a reason and they'll tell us. They do, and we can work through it. Hopefully, we won't have to be back in front of you. It'd be real easy to have a conditional agreement that says, we won't buzz it. Once the deal is done, you will transfer the density on the page. So I thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, sir.
So you're asking the council tonight to table it based upon the communications that you have not been able to have with them. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir, that is true. I'm asking to table it so that we can avoid it. If we don't get it tabled and he goes through, that then triggers Ms. Flowers got to make a decision. Again, I'm not here to threaten anybody, but her decision is then only one door. It's not door A or door B, it's one door, and she's got to file a lawsuit or just give up the density. And so the lawsuit then becomes something that, again, I try to avoid that in dispute resolutions. So we're here tonight because we couldn't resolve those.
Right.
A lawsuit against who?
Well, that's a great question. I think it would be everybody. We're not asking for money from anybody. We're just asking for a court to declare that that density is really ours, that once it comes out of the flood, there may be some claim dealing with its vested rights. I can't tell you exactly what shape will take place because, again, we don't want that. But it would involve, the town of Clayton would have to be involved because it would pass the annexation. That's why we're trying to stop this tonight, just temporarily. When I ask you, you should totally deny it. And I quite frankly didn't look at Robert's Rules of Order, but I assume you can take anything, and I don't know if annexation is the same, but I would think it is. But, so it's just a temporary, and it's more of a message because we're not asking you to do anything with the purchaser. We're not asking you to take any other action, give us some time, and to react to this. At least they'll know it's got your attention and it's an issue that perhaps you join with us in spirit and say, we want to resolve this, we do not want to fight.
Yeah, I guess, and the reason why I asked that is I just wanted to know, is there anything that you're going to do different? Because you haven't been able to establish communication with them right now. In the time frame, if we were to table it in that time period, are you going to be able to do anything different to establish, hopefully, because, of course, the right way would like you guys to get together and get this ironed out?
Well, that's a great question. And to me, I would say that the mere act of tabling it is a message that they ought to hear. If it's tabled and it doesn't go through, it doesn't mean you're taking sides. It means there is an issue that requires some further deliberation. And what part of deliberation you have with your council, I don't know. I'm not suggesting you have to do that. But I believe that's a message that will give us more traction in getting them to do what we think they should do, or to tell us why they're not. They haven't done it. I think that's what it is. They're not asking you to do anything other than give us a little more time. And I think that message will be heard on the other side. We should be able to get a deal done. So, I'm sorry, did I answer your question? You good?
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? That was what I was trying to find out. So it appears there's no one here representing the applicant. Unfortunate, but true. All right. So if there's no one else that wishes to speak on this matter, I'll now close the public hearing and I'll turn it over to council for their discussion. My first question is the legality of this and the concern of any sort of lawsuit against the town of Clayton. If this action moves forward in accepting this annexation or if it does not, because there will be issues either way from the legality perspective, and I want to know what that is.
In my view, these issues are private civil matters between property owners.
Good.
And not town issues. That doesn't mean the town doesn't find itself in a lawsuit. That happens sometimes, but ultimately the issues are between the private parties. I think there'd been some interest by Commissioner Porter in this matter, and that might be a reason for tabling it other than the reason that was given to you.
Ms. Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I read over the agenda packet, prior to tonight's meeting and prior to these presentations, which thank you for that additional information, I had a lot of questions myself. So, my inclination, with all due respect to your request, my inclination was to table it for my own understanding and learning and kind of trying to figure out what this is, because looking at the deed, I've just never seen a deed like that before. And if it wasn't going to hurt the process for making this decision, then I was going to request to table it just for my own understanding. Obviously, if there's a solution that would not involve the town somehow getting sued down the road, that would be my preference.
Mr. Thompson.
First of all, I have concern that the applicant doesn't care enough about it to be here before us tonight. There obviously is some communication problems on their part if they're not here to communicate with us tonight and they're not communicating with the council of Ms. Flowers. I have a lot of concern over that, and so short of denying it, tabling it would be my next best recommendation.
Mr. Mims?
Yes, so after reading the package, just like Councilwoman Andrea said ahead of time, I was all set to move forward with this. I'm a big proponent of if you're an applicant, then you should have enough gall to be here in front of the town council. So that is leading me leading me in the opposite direction now as far as in tabling, because I would like the applicant to be here to hear their side of it.
And just to kind of echo everyone, I agree. I think the applicant should be here for this process, seeing that we also have a little bit of pushback tonight. And also with, to Ms. Archer's point, she, trying to understand the deed. I think it's the right thing to do, and just kind of tabling it for right now.
All right. I'm not surprised at all over the communication issue. Doesn't surprise me at all. I will just say this. I'm definitely okay with tabling this issue, but I think it's fair to state for the record that when the General Assembly of the state of North Carolina took away a municipality's ability to annex, all the town could have for it in terms of growth was what was volunteered to be annexed. And our role as elected officials is to grow our tax base in a format that is healthy, that the expenditures of providing the service to that annexed area does not exceed the tax revenues that are generated for the town of Clayton from that area. And we're in business to annex. We are not in business to get in the middle of issues which have not been well ironed out before they have been presented. So I would hope both parties would be able to get to the point that they need to be within the next 2 weeks. Is that what you're thinking at the next council meeting to bring this back up, or you want to give it 30 days? I think we should give fair consideration that everybody is busy and a lot is going on. 2 weeks goes by pretty quick, but I'm good with the council's decision on a 30-day table. Okay. So I will entertain a motion to table this item for 30 days.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item for 30 days. Is there any further discussion? 30 days meaning until
second meeting in September.
the correct second meeting in September of 2022. Yes. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next is a public hearing for rezoning of multiple Town of Clayton properties.
Town Council, this is a town-initiated rezoning project. There are 63 town-owned properties that we discovered had some irregularities in their zoning, just meaning that over time and inadvertently they had not been zoned properly. All town-owned properties are required to be under the public facilities zoning districts. We have some key infrastructure that we found is under different zoning, whether it be residential, industrial, office, institutional, just stuff kind of clerical, to address and kind of bring the town up with some codes and regulations. There's multiple uses, both like these. I provided a very intensive packet with the presentation you received, and I apologize for all that. I do have a, not a great map here, I'm just gonna show where the properties are in dark red, but I also have all of the individual locations as well on the slide if we need to go over any of them today. The town staff does recommend approval with rezoning, and the planning board also recommends approval with rezoning requests as it aligns up with some of our land use policies, our infrastructure policies, as well as our comprehensive growth plan. One note I would need to make is that at the planning board meeting, the original proposal included 65 properties. We were contacted by another department right before we presented to the planning board that 2 properties are under the process of development, and so we removed those and we informed the planning board of this decision and told them that the future of these properties may need to come before them again for rezoning. At this time, we were requesting to remove from our proposal, so that's what we did, and they approved it anyway. So that's here today. I may answer any questions.
All right, any questions for staff? All right, no questions for staff, then I'll open up the floor for I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Ari Ruffin. I'm new to the Clayton area. I live in 589 at West Laurel Drive, which is right next to the forest. I'm curious about the forest behind it. It's going to be. We have lots of cat ones and we have figured out we have so much wildlife back there that forest that kind of actually a non-profit organization for they're the basic animals, sort of bats. Anything in the world is forest into our backyard. Everything. Look at exactly what you can see where everything just goes that way. I'm not concerned about that. That's all. What was I going to say? I remember to ask. Yeah, I'm just, we have a nice house, right? Great locations.
So this is actually a Creek area. So there's actually no planned development for this area. This is kind of just clerical rezoning and kind of putting it back into the town proper code. It's actually, it gives it more protection, but a lot of this area right now is actually zoned for residential, meaning someone could come in and buy it and put houses on it right away. So this is just rezoning to prevent that, protecting more of the woods. And the only thing is we potentially have, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's no turn tank at the moment.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? All right, no one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their deliberation.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Archer.
I would like to make a motion to approve rezoning ordinance amendment 2022-08-07 or 2022-92-RZ.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, and lastly is, well, we're just continuing the next one on the agenda. Okay, so we're going to move to F. The next public hearing is for 3 text amendments to Chapter 155. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could we take action on continuing that previous matter?
We can. Can we continue with this one, and then I'll go back up there and we'll do that one? Yeah. Do you want to? Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, so you were saying we needed to take action on item E to continue that item?
We can, but I had suggested that we go ahead with what we've already called for the record, and then we can go back up there and continue that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing for 3 text amendments to Chapter 155.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Richard, planner to Clayton Center. Tonight I'm bringing you a proposed ordinance amendment. It's actually for 3 separate sections of our Unified Development Code. 155.301, which deals with upper-story residential, 55705, which is procedural, talks about action after approval of the conditional zoning districts, and 155.716, which deals with standards for variance. The purpose of it for the first one, 301, is to make the UDC consistent with the North Carolina Accessibility Code. For 705, the purpose is to clarify requirements for applicants related to conditional zoning districts. And the purpose of the third text amendment, 716, is to ensure that our code remains consistent with current case law. The staff feels that all 3 of these are relatively minor in scope. So just to expand a little bit here, for the upper story residential, the NC Accessibility Code has a requirement for buildings which don't have elevators, but have upper story residences that they, in order to meet ADA standards, they need to have at least 1 ground floor ADA accessible unit. Once they reach a certain number of units for the building. For action after approval, the second proposed amendment, we had a pre-application meeting recently for a proposed conditional zoning project. As it happens, it happened to be for a river use property. One of the applicants had a question related to whether uses which are listed in our code as special uses, whether getting conditional zoning approval then converts them into a permitted use. So it's been practice that those are in fact permitted uses if the conditional zoning district is approved. And so this is just simply codifying that. And then the third deals with burden of proof. Even that term burden of proof, through my conversations with the town attorney, Mr. Colley, and also Mr. Raspberry, I understand that recent case law has altered some quasi-judicial evidentiary standards, or at least how they're reviewed. So we're proposing to change the section title simply to evidentiary standards, as well as to replace the word presenting with producing, to align with the language from recently amended. I should note that the planning board unanimously recommended approval of all the text amendments with no alterations. So what you have in the packet is also what the planning board saw and recommended. And should you decide to follow that up with your own approval, there is a requirement for a statement of consistency. So that's what I handed you just now. So I simply included an excerpt of that statement here, which you may refer to in the motion. With that, I'm done. If you have any questions, have any answers.
Thank you. Questions or comments for staff? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. This has been noted as a public hearing. It's only the fifth one. You think I have it down pat by now. This is a notice, public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. Okay, no one wishing to speak on this matter. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we approve text amendment ordinance 2022-08-09.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now if we can go back up to E, the public hearing for rezoning request, 2020-69 RZ for Jason and Velamon Carroll. I would ask for a motion to continue this until the September 6, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Did we need to do the consistency and reasonableness statement for that last motion, Mr. Sims?
No, but I think we probably should.
Yeah, just that, we'll have to go back to it.
Yes. You want to make that?
Mr. Mayor, going back to the previous item on the text amendments, I move that we approve the statement of consistency and reasonableness to go along with that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Up next under new business, revenue bonds finding resolution 2022-55 for the Sam's Branch Water Reclamation Facility.
Union Mayor, members of council, Robert High, Finance Director. Tonight, we're asking council to approve a finding resolution that will authorize staff to make application to the LGC for approval of revenue bonds not exceeding $100 million, which will be utilized to help finance the construction of the Sam Branch Water Reclamation Facility. If you have any questions around the resolution?
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for staff? All right, thank you, Robert. Wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution 2022-55.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is resolution 2022-56 and policies related to the American Rescue Plan Act.
Now we have a resolution that's related to requirements of the ARPA Act of 2021. Basically, that funding acceptance, that funding, each town has accepted 3 different sources of funding for ARPA, requires the town to adopt these policies in order to be in compliance with the ARPA Act. So basically, we have 6 policies that we have to adopt. That's in the resolution. On those policies, the first one is the eligible use policy. It's basically 5 eligible uses. The first use covers expenditures for public safety, which for us, it's the salaries. And the second item, which is the 5th use, is eligibility is water and sewer infrastructure. The second policy is a cost principle policy, and that basically addresses the allowable costs, and the principles related to those costs, and others high spending money. The third policy is a non-discrimination policy that basically requires the town to comply with the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, the Rehabilitation Act, the Age Discrimination Act, as well as ADA. The fourth policy is the real property policy. Basically, that applies to the procurement of equipment in real property. It basically says that we have to file uniform guidance, procurement guidelines, contracts for equipment in real property. The record retention policy basically requires us to keep records for a 5-year period. After we expend the money on it, we'll expend the money, or if we were for some reason return the money to Treasury, whichever one's latter. It's a 5-year record retention policy we have to comply with. And the last policy is kind of itself is planning code. It's a conflict of interest policy. So anytime the town enters into a contract that's going to be funded in all or part of these ARPA funds, it's conflict of interest policy. Any questions? I didn't get down into the weeds on all this policy. I kind of gave it the 40,000 foot.
Perfect. Questions or comments for staff? All right, thank you, Robert. Wishes of council?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve Resolution 2022-56, Policy 2022-01, Policy 2022-02, Policy 2022-03, Policy 2022-04, Policy 2022-05, and Policy 2022-06.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next are budget amendments for the following. Budget Ordinance Amendment 2022-0801 for the American Rescue Plan Act. Budget Ordinance Amendment 2022-0802 for School Resource Officer. And Budget Ordinance Amendment 2022-0803 for Copper District.
We have three budget amendments that perhaps the council approved. All three of them are directly related. The general fund one also has the addition of the school resource officer that Brett petitioned council for last meeting. So basically what we're doing, the first budget meeting is taking and realigning expenditures that we, on the grant project ordinance that we created back in June. So what we're doing is we're taking and reducing the expenditures for salaries and replacing it with the transfer from the general fund. General fund budget amendment is taking and supplanting those our expenditures. We have budget for salaries and wages on the public safety side, and we're going to transfer those monies over to supplanting expenditures for salaries over to the water sewer fund to use that for the water sewer infrastructure improvements that relate to the Copper District. That's to cover our obligation to the we have for the Copper District. In addition, the general fund budget amendment budgets the incremental revenue that we're going to receive on the existing two school resource officers. It's going from 48,050, plus we got the new position, the third position, at 50,000. So that's what the general fund budget amendment is doing. The last budget amendment actually just takes and realigns the water sewer revenues and replaces it with the transfer from the general fund. Cover those infrastructure improvements related to the Congress. So overall, this is neutral impact budgetarily with the exception of the school resource officer.
All right, any questions or comments for staff? All right, thank you, Robert.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Archer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 2022-08-01.
Second.
We have a motion to approve Ordinance 2022-0801. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Ms. Archer.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 2022-08-02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Ordinance 2022-08-02. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Ms. Archer.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 2022-08-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Ordinance 2022-08-03. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Yes, sir. Thank you. Moving on down with staff report, beginning with the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. One, on your agenda tonight, there were several public hearings. Unfortunately, just based on where things came through the system, they all aligned for this evening, but I do want to, I appreciate everybody's efforts in getting through them as expeditiously as possible, but moving forward, we will be managing the agenda, such that we can maintain probably no more than really 3 public hearings in an evening to make sure that we can allow enough time for all of that. Again, we will work with the applicants as they're coming through the process, but we will try to make sure that we manage them a little bit tighter. Other updates for you this evening. Really the main one I want to give you is regarding the water reclamation facility. Some of you may be getting tired of hearing about it, but things move quick and change regularly on this project. We did have the pre-bid meeting for the 5 pre-qualified contractors last week. Going into the meeting, one of them, or prior to the meeting, excuse me, one of them did indicate to us that they had recently won a significant amount of work that was going to basically take them out of the running to be able to continue to pursue our project, just based on staffing and resources availability. So we were down to 4. Through those conversations with the different bidders, it did appear as though our timeline of September 1st for bids in hand was a bit aggressive. That was purposeful because we were trying to make the October LGC meeting and the deadlines for that meeting subject to our audit. However, in reviewing kind of the bid, the potential bidders, as well as just making sure that we are getting good good competition on the bid overall, we did make the decision on Friday to push the bid date back to September 20th now. That will push us to the November LGC meeting at this point. However, Mr. Mackay has assured us that the auditor will be able to work through our annual audit and get it submitted in time to be able to make the November meeting this year. So right now the meeting, the bid deadline will be September 20th, and assuming we get 3 full bids, we will open that day. If we do not, for some reason, then we will re-advertise per the general statutes and open no earlier than a week later than that. So more to come as we continue to work through it, but appreciate your support this evening with getting the different ARPA policies in place, as well as the budget amendments that kind of can work towards fulfilling the funding package that we are planning for the project. 2 other little quick things to note. The library will be having new furniture installed here over the next coming weeks. We're waiting on the final delivery date from the installers, but stay tuned. We will make sure that our communications team pushes that date out so everybody's aware that the library will be closed for a day while that effort is taking place. And then last but not least, just want to say a quick congratulations to Nathaniel Shelton for passing his remote pilot certificate. So he is now qualified to operate our drone for us at our different events. So congratulations. And that's
awesome.
it.
Is that it? Thank you, sir. Town attorney?
No.
Town clerk?
This is just a reminder, our September 6th work session will begin at 2 p.m.
All right. Any other staff? All right, I'll follow up on policy for nonprofits. We're getting our money's worth out of you tonight.
I don't charge by the hour.
I get it.
Well, thank you for having me back, Mayor and council members. I'm bringing myself before y'all to offer answers to any questions y'all may have, or to kind of talk, I guess, in general terms of how we arrived at the current rate structure we have, and then I've got a little bit of information that I believe y'all caught this afternoon, which looks at some of what I would consider kind of our benchmark communities or peers in the Triangle region, how they approach nonprofit rates as well. But I'll just kind of start high level. Several years back, shortly after coming on board, I was asked by several members of council at our first retreat I attended to relook at how we collected or assessed fees for both programs and for facilities. And the philosophy of council, which we adopted, was that we would derive our fees that we charge for things like things shelter rental or field rental for non-residents, if you will, based on the direct cost that the town has to absorb to provide that service, whether that is rooting an artificial turf field, whether that's painting lines on a natural turf field or an artificial turf field, trash collection, prep for a picnic shelter, which can include power washing and things like that. And so that was sort of the idea of we would have a baseline of rack rate assessment, and then we would discount that 50% for residents. And that's why when we look at our rental rates, you'll see you know, non-resident rate for something might be $80, and for a resident, $3. And, you know, the resident, non-resident rate, rate structure did precede me here in the town of Clayton. I know that we've gone kind of a couple different ways on that over the years. That is pretty standard in the Parks and Recreation field, is that the residents of a community pay a lesser rate than residents who's generally defined as resident status in the community. Is generally not defined as property ownership. It's, you know, hey, what does your driver's license say, or a water bill, or in our case, a power bill. Looking at our peers, you know, everybody's doing the resident, non-resident thing. Some of them have resident rates, you know, 20% less than non-resident rates, even 50%, like we are, and the numbers are 100%. So it's, you know, we're in line with how we're generally delivering services and the way we assess our fees. When it comes to nonprofits, of the ones we looked at, I think 3 of the 5 were offering a nonprofit rate in one way, shape, or form. Some were really limiting it. For example, the town care was really limiting their nonprofit rates to just room rentals and only during a narrow window of time, so Monday through Thursday. You know, only between the hours of 8 and 2 p.m. That's the only time they were offering fuel for non-residents. And then, you know, some Wake Forest is probably the extreme. They had 4 different rate structures, and then a non-resident rate and a resident rate for each one of them. So they had a, you know, kind of a rack rate, and they had a non-profit rate, they had a veterans rate, and they had a business rate. The business rate was 3 or 4 times what the rack was. So, you know, really, the only other exception that I don't really have captured in here is that many of our peers, when it comes to athletic associations, so whether that's like the Newspaper Football Associations of the world, or DC softball, or Little League baseball, oftentimes those are negotiated as a contract, similar to what we negotiated a contract with Clovers. Sometimes there's a significant investment of those groups in facilities. That's definitely the case of Cary, definitely the case of Colorado Springs. You know, you see facilities like Ting, there are you know, 6-figure rents being paid behind the scenes by these associations to have prior usage of those athletic facilities for, you know, 10-year duration, a long relationship. And generally what towns do is they borrow against that committed debt service, and, you know, perhaps even so that's, I guess, sort of a lot of information. I know I just kind of threw you guys like out of a fire hose, but I wanted to see if there are any questions I can answer. I mean, there was some interest in non-profit rates for facilities, and kind of wanted to see what y'all were interested in.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Sims?
I don't know if I have a question as much as a comment, and appreciate all that information. That's outstanding. I do like, and especially when you look at the comparisons and what we're going to measure ourselves to. I also do strongly believe that in also setting standards, and I don't know what those standards are, but you know, I do believe that in whatever shape or form that we can work out something with nonprofits. From a pricing standpoint, you know, you got some good examples, I think, to work out. I do think that we have to look at the different things that are the complexities of Clayton itself, because it might not align up with some, but I do feel that we can come up with some type of rate for nonprofits.
Mr. Thompson?
I agree with Mr. Sims. I think there's it's complex, and it's not as simple as do you live in town or not anymore. And I think, you know, a good example, we've got residents that live in town that, you know, they contribute obviously and they deserve a deal. But the business owner that has invested a lot of their time, effort, brought employees into town and increased our quality of life in town, they should deserve a deal too. So, I mean, it's really, I just don't know that it's as clear cut as resident or non-resident. I think I almost kind of like the Wake Forest way a little better, with, even though it's more complex, it addresses more of the special populations and the, you know, the issues a little more. But I think there is a better way. I don't know what that is, but I think there's a better way. And I think it can address, nonprofit organizations that contribute a great deal to our community. They're just as deserving as a resident. So I just think I think you're on the right, what you've assessed what the baseline kind of is, and I think now we have to develop what is the best way for us, because we are complex, we're different from everybody else, and we just need to figure out the best way for us to include some of the special populations that contribute a great deal to the community that may be deserving of some sort of a different rate in there.
I agree. All right, anyone else? Thank you, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Archer.
I echo both of you. And was that enough direction for you to kind of come back with some alternate rate structures?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Thank you, Scott. I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Please step forward and state your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Ben Chapman. I live off of Amelia Church Road. I'm here as an unaffiliated, nonpartisan citizen speaking up for my community. A catalyst for why I'm finally here tonight is a 5-year-old orphan named Zoe in Louisiana. Adopted by her aunt, last week her household received a call that, quote, they cannot educate our child due to the fact we are a married same-sex couple. My community is the LGBTQ+ community. That story incenses me. It highlights the cruel absurdity of discrimination. Zoe did nothing wrong, yet the Baptist school, her parents, chose to hire their capacity. There is no law, no ordinance that could prevent that same occurrence from happening. For 4 months, I've worried about a future where I can't marry the person that I love here in my home state. This time has been difficult for me, to say the least. 35 states have laws and constitutional amendments predate Obergefell v. Hodges, where if that precedent were overturned, 1.1 million American marriages would be threatened. Sorry, 1.3 million Americans in marriages would have their unions threatened. No single person here at the Town Council can affect change on a national level. But I wanted to come here today to speak about local non-discrimination ordinance. I actually wasn't aware that a non-discrimination ordinance was on the agenda until I heard about it. And I'd like to advocate for you all to consider a more expansive non-discrimination ordinance. One which protects classes and categories which are not currently covered under federal law. My personal example that I'm coming here today to advocate for is sexuality and gender identity expression. But if you look to the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance, one that was passed was hairstyles. Crown Act is something that advocates within American communities have been advocating for years, and I want to give a little bit of time to call on that. That's pretty much the extent of my planned remarks. I was a little bit caught off guard by the passage of a non-discrimination ordinance. I'm very pleased that you all prioritize that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, then I'm going to save the best for last. I'm going to ask Sherry Scoggins if she would come to the podium and give us a little good news.
This morning at Potty, please stand. So, this was an awesome Monday morning, and I am very happy to share
that your deputy town clerk is now a certified municipal clerk through the IIMC. That stands for International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And this designation that she's attained is recognized for a woman. And will allow her to continue to grow professionally and branch out her network within North Carolina and beyond her borders. So I think Heidi deserves a big round of applause, but she has really taken this to task, and she took the initiation to follow up with what I told her she could do, and she did.
Awesome, congratulations. That's awesome. Thank you. So now we'll have to change all the letterhead to say CMC. Yeah. All right. I don't know if there's anything else left on the agenda. We are going to go into a closed session. Oh, my bad. Thank you, Jason. I now ask council for comments. Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, I can't remember if it was last meeting or the meeting before, we talked about the state of emergency for COVID, and we continued keeping that in place because at that point in time, the state was keeping theirs in place, and we didn't want to unintentionally cut off any funding sources should we need them in the future. But based on what has now been announced, the state is going to let theirs expire. And it would be my recommendation, and I can put it in a motion, that we allow ours to expire.
All right. You making that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that in a motion. It just puts us consistent with what the state of North Carolina is doing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
I have one more thing.
Go right ahead.
I do want to address Mr. Chapman for coming tonight, and thank you for coming to us. One thing that Clayton has always prided itself in doing is being better. You know, we don't want to be just like everybody else. We want to be better than everybody else and have a better quality of life for other people. And I know I have had multiple conversations with Rich and some other town staff members about what we can do to be more inclusive in the town of Clayton. And we've got some staff members who are spearheading some efforts, and I think that will only expand. And I think your feedback tonight, you know, regarding discrimination ordinance, other things we can do to make it better is important. We need to hear those things so that we can provide adequate direction to our staff to make us better, because we want to be better. We don't want to be just like everybody else. We want to provide a better town than everybody else does. So thank you for coming. Just know that we are working hard on situations. You know, inclusiveness applies to so many things that maybe we take for granted until you can't take it. And so we've seen over and over, it seems like in today's world, some personal freedoms people take for granted might not be a freedom at all. So we're working on it, and we're trying to do what we can do to be better. Also with regards to the disabled community, different, you know, there's so many different areas of inclusion that we can be better at. And I've worked, you know, been challenging staff to see what we can do to be better. And so we appreciate you coming. We hear you, and we hear from other citizens with this, you know, the same sentiments. And thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah, I also want to kind of go back on what Jason was saying. I think it's very important, and it takes a lot of guts for you to stand at that podium and, you know, speak your mind. So I truly appreciate you for coming out tonight, and I think it's a true reflection. I also believe that it's, you know, how we look on council should reflect the community. And so we appreciate you, and also me being a part of the LGBTQ. I think it's very important that you showed up tonight, and I appreciate you, sir.
All right, anyone else? I would just like to say one thing really quick, because if I don't, I'm going to forget it. You know, I know there's a lot going on, and I get it. But I am over the situation of 18-wheelers on Main Street in Clayton, North Carolina. Like, I have been patient. I have created awareness. I don't really feel like I'm seeing the results that I'm looking for. And then today, when I take my, you know, drive to work, there's an 18-wheeler that's turned on from Main Street to Lombard. You know, I feel like it's a huge public safety issue. I think it's an inconvenience for business owners in that region. We've heard from business owners about the very issue of 18-wheelers turning the corner there and just up and down Main Street and the speed that they're going when they go up and down Main Street. And I want us to have some opportunity to have a focused conversation on what the actual strategy is going to be for this and bring that back to this council. All right, now I'm gonna entertain a motion to go into closed session, and I'm gonna ask that that motion include a 15-minute break.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, recess for 15. All right. Call our meeting back to order. Is there any other business to come before this board? All right, no other no other issues coming before the board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.